Welcome to today's event, Winning Advisory Market Share. Introducing Mike Dean, MD and co-founder here at WhisperClaims, and leading consultant to accountant Richard Brewin from ProgressBB.
Hi.
Hi to you both. I'm Suze, I'll be the compere for today. Our session this lunchtime follows the recent collaboration and publication of our latest ebook, which has been co-authored by Mike and Richard, called Making the Shift from Compliance to Advisory. So today, Mike and Richard are going to unpack what advisory services look like, how they can be delivered, and what you as accountants can do to shift how your clients view you by finding new ways to engage and demonstrating the value you offer without feeling like you need to give this advisory service away for free. They'll discuss the first steps you should be taking to make this shift, the importance of data visibility, and how leveraging technology is crucial in delivering these services in a tangible, transparent and structured way. Just for those of you who don't know much about us here at WhisperClaims, we are a technology company focused on helping accountants grow their businesses. Our R&D tech software allows our users to build new revenues, either by launching their own in-house R&D service or by introducing a framework that increases throughput and capacity with no need to outsource. Firmly sitting alongside our transformational software is our comprehensive support suites. Jen and Ian, who head up our support team, are available Monday to Friday 9 to 5 to advise on any scheme or eligibility related queries through our various channels: phone, email, live chat, and also through our community WhatsApp and Facebook groups. Just before we get going today, just a quick bit of housekeeping. There'll be plenty of time set aside for a Q&A, but do feel free to start getting your questions fired over as quickly as you like. I'll be using the chat box throughout the session just to provide links and information. So if you do want to chat to us, please feel free to use the chat box. But any questions related to the topic today, please do use the Q&A box. Okay, over to you, Richard and Mike.
Thank you very much, Suze. So as Suze said, I'm the MD here at WhisperClaims, and Suze gave a great sort of overview of our business, so I won't bore you by going into that any further here. But Richard, over to you and a quick intro to ProgressBB.
Thanks, Mike. Hello, everyone. So I'm Richard Brewin. I'm a chartered accountant. I've been for 41 years now, but I'm Managing Director of ProgressBB. We provide mentoring and coaching support and advice for owner-managed accountants, so accountants who run their own firms.
Excellent, thank you. Right, what are we going to cover? So we'll initially kick off talking about what we mean by advisory services. Some of you in the audience might think that's obvious, others I think perhaps less so. So I'll try and cover that off. And advisory is a sort of hot topic at the moment. So why is that? And we'll try and explore that a little bit as we go. How should I deliver advisory services to my existing clients? So how do you make this leap from compliance into advisory? And then how do you use advisory as a lever to win business from new clients? So we'll explore all of those areas. Clearly, it's important to figure out how you make those first steps into that journey. So again, we'll look at that. And then finally, using some of the kind of case study material from WhisperClaims and what we do, we'll have a little bit of a look into how people are actually using technology to move along that journey and get themselves going. So that's our plan. Just bear with me a second. There we go. So what are advisory services? Now, prior to setting up WhisperClaims, I spent quite a long time working as an independent business consultant. So my LinkedIn feed is populated probably 50-50 between accountants now and a past life of independent consultancy. So whenever I put something up on LinkedIn that's asking questions around accountants shifting to advisory, I get business consultants sort of pushing back, saying, why on earth are accountants qualified to move into my space? And a great example, these are all quotes taken from a little survey that I posted on LinkedIn a few months ago, and a real example of what I'm talking about. So that quote bottom right there is a good one. I find it personally astounding that accountants would automatically see themselves or be seen by their clients as able or responsible to give generic business advice or guidance. So Richard, what do we mean by advisory services? And are we talking about accountants becoming generic business consultants here, or are we talking about something else?
Yeah, it makes me smile when I see people say that accountants can't do this or shouldn't do this. And one of the things that muddies the waters at the moment, of course, is that there are so many different definitions of exactly what advisory is. So I will give you my working definition, because I personally believe that many accountants have always done advisory. We maybe haven't charged for it in the past, and we certainly haven't structured in a way that makes it a sustainable and visible service as far as clients are concerned. But my definition of advisory is, in essence, any value-added service or advice that we do that isn't compliance, but crucially, that the client pays for. And I think that's where I sort of focus on the difference these days. Accountants have always given advice, so let's expand that into advisory. But we've been poor at essentially charging for it, and we've certainly been poor at creating sustainable services. And the modern definition of advisory is that I see that it is we're giving advice, but we're doing it in a way that is both value added, the client's happy to pay, and it's a very structured service that they benefit from.
Just to give us a sort of little flavour on that, what if you were to sort of throw a few services around that you'd consider under that definition, what sort of things might they be?
Well, I mean, one of the areas that people tend to automatically assume with advisory services is things like strategic planning, business planning, those sort of things. I think they're quite a narrow part of it. For many accountants, certainly many of the accountants I meet, they came into the profession, they certainly started their own firms because they wanted to make a difference for their clients. And that's what advisory services do. So if you're looking to work with your client to help them have a better business, to help them have a better life, if you like, to make the changes and achieve the goals that they want to achieve for themselves, for their family, for their team, for their customers, their communities, they are advisory services. Now, that can be anything from business planning, strategic planning. It can be guidance on how to run the business. It can be marketing. It can be IT, HR. It can be personal mindset, anything like that. And I'm not saying for one moment that the accountant should be expert in all of these, because none of us are. But if your intent is to help your client, then you're looking at services that will be beneficial to your client to do that may be delivered by you, or maybe delivered through tech, or maybe delivered by people within your team or your network.
Brilliant, thank you. So why is advisory important right now? This slide's a year out of date already, and I should probably revisit it and revise it. I'm sure there'll be a lot more bits of tech on this if I was to do it again. But what we're seeing is a kind of an explosion, if you like, in technology out there, a lot of which is focused on helping accountancy firms with compliance and the kind of core service offering. And in many respects, that's a good thing. It's about reducing costs. It's about increasing efficiency. But what that also means is it's about lowering barriers to entry into the market as well for those services. So in itself, the technology at that level is creating more competition and therefore ultimately creating price pressure. I mean, is that a fair comment? Do you see that from the field, Richard?
Yes, it's why I think advisory is such a big thing now, because what tech has done is, on the one hand, create the time for us to sit down and have different sorts of conversations with clients, but also it quickly produces the data, the information, the reports that we need to capture the client's attention and to sort of start them down this path.
And is there a sort of inevitable pressure then on firms to generate higher value added services? That's what we're really talking about here, isn't there? There's a sort of inherent pressure that's saying we've got to find a new way to generate revenue and generate margin.
I think there's certainly pressure being applied, and we all recognise that digital disruption, digital transformation is changing our profession in the same way that it is driving change in every other sector. So for 500 years, we've lived on compliance. We've taken clients' incomplete records and converted them into compliant returns. And that's worked as a business model. It works for clients, it's worked for us. For accountants who wanted to do more, the challenge was always that it was so cumbersome and so time consuming and cost consuming that there wasn't an awful lot of scope to do anything extra. Well, now we've freed that up. Now tech creates the opportunity for us to sit down and have meaningful conversations with clients. So for those accountants who want to do that sort of thing, this is why I say there's a pressure being applied, because there is this sense that you've got to do advisory. Well, it depends what sort of accountant you want to be. It depends what sort of firm you want to be. The opportunity is certainly there to do advisory. And I see compliance and advisory as being on the same journey. I think compliance creates the opportunity to do advisory because you have the data and you have the client's trust.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what are the things that are preventing firms from, those that are choosing perhaps to go on that journey or facing that choice, what are the things that are preventing them from doing it, acting as blockers?
I think the number one issue is self-belief and confidence. For many accountants who have maybe tried to provide more value-added and more advisory work in the past, because it wasn't done in a structured way and because they didn't necessarily have the time and resources to do it, it didn't succeed. And so there is this fear that, can we actually do this? Can we actually deliver these sorts of services? But also, do clients want them? Yeah, because if we've not delivered it in the past, clients have a perception that we are the people that they talk to about their accounts and tax. They don't necessarily open the doors of their lives and their businesses to us in other ways. And so I talk to many accountants who will say, A, I don't know if I can do it. B, I don't know if my team can help me, and therefore I don't have the resource. And C, I don't know if my clients want it anyway. Well, show me a client out there who doesn't want to improve their life or the life of their families. So I think the clients do want it. It's just that they don't know what it is, and they didn't realize that it's part of that relationship with their accountant. But the accountant doesn't have the confidence in the first place to drive that. And I think that's when you look at the tech that's available, when you look at how you can then develop yourself and your team to use that tech, I think it creates this opportunity to start having different sorts of conversations with clients. And that's what opens the door. So I think there's a mindset issue that has to change for people to believe that actually, as a firm and as individuals, yes, we can do this sort of thing, and our clients will respond.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen that in the development of our business. When we first set out to build WhisperClaims, we saw ourselves, and still do see ourselves, as a tech business. But in those early days, we thought that we're building a piece of software here, and the support that we build around it will be software support. And actually, over the 3.5 years or so since we launched, what we've discovered is exactly the point that you're making, that our customers, the firms out there who want to do more in terms of R&D tax and want to leverage technology, that they lack confidence, some of them. And so, the challenge for us has been, how do we help them with that? How do we build their confidence? So our support offering around our software has become much more about training, scheme support, sort of technical support around the scheme itself. So helping our users with questions around eligibility and sort of specific challenges they might be facing in a dialogue with a customer. So it's entirely kind of in line with what you're saying, albeit perhaps in a narrow area, but giving people that confidence to make that next step and get out there and deliver a new service.
Well, I think it's a great example, and it's a very important part, I think, of the relationship that the tech companies need to have with their customers, the accountants, because it's not just about understanding the bells and the whistles in the software and what you can do with it. It's about the accountant understanding where it fits into their own goals, their own plans. Where does it fit into the client relationship? Where does it fit into the team development? How are we going to use this to achieve what we want to achieve as a firm? Yeah. And I think it's, if I always compare it with the car market, because you can, the dealers can sell all their high-end vehicles and they can show the customer what all the buttons do and what all the software and app add-ons do and all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, it's how the customer drives that vehicle that's going to make the difference. And if they don't drive it to its full potential, then they're not going to see the full reward. And therefore, it's a matter of working, like you see with the high, you buy a Ferrari and they're not just going to sell you a Ferrari. They're going to sit down, they're going to take you out on the course and show you how to drive the thing. I think fintechs need to think a bit more about that side.
Yeah.
How do we work with our clients, not just to give them the bells and whistles they think they need, but actually to help them to understand how they're going to drive it?
Yeah. Yeah. And interesting, I mean, just putting a bit more colour on that, the sort of questions we get asked are not just, we do get asked this, but it's not just how do I do an R&D claim? It's actually, how do I have a conversation with my client about an R&D claim, which is a significantly different question, actually.
Yeah, very much so. And the step before that, how do we as a firm, how do we identify the clients that we want to be approaching? How do I engage other team members so that I'm not just trying to do this on my own?
Yeah.
How do we start those conversations with clients? How do we create the opportunity to show them a WhisperClaims report, for instance? So it's much, much bigger than just, okay, let's process these figures.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Excellent. Well, here we've got an example of actually a joint customer of ours. We're both servicing BWP. And actually, I noticed on the list of attendees, they might want to put a comment in somewhere, we have actually got a team member from BWP on this call. Okay. So this is a quote here from Steve Price of BWP, and he's talking about essentially how they deliver advisory services. And the first point he makes there is that you don't sell an advisory relationship. It's about building a relationship with your client over time rather than a sort of foot in the door sales activity. I mean, again, does that ring true? That's a comment from Steve, but I'm guessing you're seeing that with multiple clients that you work with.
Absolutely, and BWP are a great example of it. How you build the relationship with the client, and the more that inevitably that starts from a compliance point of view, because that is still the number one reason why people choose accountants, because they have a compliance issue. Yeah. So you build on that, you earn their trust. And then by actively managing the relationship, that's the key thing to it. Once you've built that up, you then manage the relationship. You don't sit back and wait for the client to come to you with their questions. You don't wait for the client to come and say, any chance I can have an R&D claim? You look at the clients, you listen to the clients, you look at what they need, and then you build the relationship with the client and manage the relationship to take them in the right direction. And that's something that Steve and his team do extremely well.
Yeah, and I guess that point about trust, you couldn't have a more trusting relationship than revealing all of your data and the kind of depth of an insight that an accountancy firm has into their client's business. It couldn't be deeper than that, could it?
No. And that's why I talk a lot about just sort of walking in from the shallow end when it comes to these sorts of services and how you charge for them. Because if you just sit down with a client out of the blue and say, let's have a conversation, I want to talk to you about strategic service we have on offer, clients will naturally push back from that because they'll be concerned about cost. They'll think, is it relevant to me? If you say to a client, look, when you come in next week, can we have 15 minutes at the end of that meeting? Because there's just something I wanted to show you about your business. And that's where you introduce a report or some data. That's an easy way in. Yeah, particularly if you go to client, well, look, here's some thought. Go away, try that for a couple of weeks. Let's book a meeting for 2 weeks' time. See where we build from there. So you develop it. You don't sell it as a we've got a new advisory department and we've got all these advisory services, come and buy them. It doesn't work. Yeah. But if you know your clients and you listen to your clients, you quite naturally start to walk down the advisory route. The trick is to make sure you know you're doing it so that you charge for it.
Yeah. I know. I mean, but there's a few messages in that again ring true in terms of our experience with our users. If we're talking to a firm that has no insight into whether their client base has got an R&D requirement, or they've had no experience of delivering a service or outsourcing a service previously with their clients, that's often a bit of a red flag for us that they're going to need a lot more support before they start going out and selling a service from scratch. If you've got an existing relationship and an existing set of relationships and an existing sort of level of understanding, that is clearly a better place to be starting from. So working with people who've got clients with a propensity to have an R&D claim is a better place for us to start. And we tend to find people get going quicker in that kind of scenario, which is, I guess, what you'd expect.
And let's be clear on this. We have a responsibility to give our clients the best advice. We can't look at an area and go, actually, I don't know much about that, therefore I'm not going to talk about it.
Yes.
We can certainly go to a client, look, R&D could be an opportunity for you. I'm no expert. Let's talk to these people, or let's bring these guys in, or let's use this report to find out more. I've been an accountant for a long time. I I came to the practice in 1981. I sold the last of our firms in 2008. I am by no means a tax accountant. I would never call myself a tax accountant. My focus has always been on the client's business, client's relationship. That's what we're good at. Now, I'm competent in tax, but I wouldn't be confident to sit down and talk to a client in detail about an R&D claim and handle it all on my own. But equally, I recognise the clients where this could be an opportunity and could be relevant, and I think there's a responsibility to then introduce that topic.
Yeah,
It's like it's the old Bush phrase, isn't it, of knowing what you know and what you don't know. And I think you've got to recognise, just because I'm not comfortable talking R&D, it's not right to then say, right, I'm not going to discuss this with my clients. And actually, that's how you lose clients, because if you don't, somebody else will.
Yes, absolutely right. Absolutely. And then when we're looking at new clients, so this slide, I guess what we're saying is, focus on existing business first, focus on building that trusted relationship before you start going out there and sort of singing from the rooftops about this new suite of services that you've built.
Yes, I mean, it's that word trust again, isn't it? And so this is the easy way in. And also it's only fair to our existing clients. How many times have you moaned about your bank or what have you because they offer something to new customers that you as an existing customer of 20 years can't get? So it's a natural place to start. These are the people who know us, we know them, we understand their business, we understand their lives. So it's a quite natural place to start, and the trust is in place. Because the beauty is, once you've established these sorts of services with existing clients, then you've got the testimonials and the case studies that you can use to bring it in as new business. Because we're back to this issue of trust again. And if you have that sort of social proof, you're more likely to be able to attract new clients, because they can see, they can relate to what those existing clients are saying.
Yeah. I was reading an insight report a couple of days ago from Practice Web. I think they published it last week. That was looking at essentially the drivers for SMEs buying accountancy services and the whole relationship with their accountant, and the sort of leverage of technology in that relationship as well. And I made a couple of notes here that there were three things that kind of came out at the top of the list of why do SMEs value the relationship with their accountant. The first two were experience and customer service, so sort of reinforcing this thing of it's about the relationship at the end of the day. And then third in the list was additional services. So actually, exactly this kind of pattern we're talking about here, following on from the relationship, is the ability to add more value through delivering more stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things, with the experience that everybody has had over the last 2 years or so, we know that a really important thing for SME business owners is that they have an accountant who's there for them, who understands them, who's on their side, who's accessible to them and tells them what they need to know. I think it's a starting point now for building the client relationships. And then they're looking for the accountant to talk to them about the things that they should be talking about, rather than wait for those questions. I don't know what questions to ask my marketing agents or my IT agents. I expect them to come to me and say, look, this is what you should be doing next. And it's the same with accountants. It's not proactive if all we're doing is answering their questions. We're the ones who need to be managing the relationship, managing the process.
Yeah, perfect. I noticed Susan's put the link to that Practice Web paper in there, so anyone wants to have a look at it and download it, you've got access to it there. So what's the first step? So if we're going to go about this and start delivering some of these new services, where do we go, Richard?
I think the starting point is to understand what you're good at. There are obviously programs out there that can take you down advisory routes, and there's some good ones, there's some not so good ones. My advice is always the same: start with what you know you're good at. And for most accountants, that is going to revolve around financial management. That's what we're trained at, that's what we're good in. So if we're having conversations with clients that are around an analysis of their figures, or are around credit control, for instance, they're things that we are expert in. So I would think, first of all, about, as a service, what are the conversations that I'm comfortable having with my clients? And then to look at your existing client base and go, where are the opportunities? Who are the clients who we have the best relationship with? Who are the clients who tend to listen to us? This doesn't have to be a hard let's go for every client. Pick the clients who you think and that you most likely can sit down and have these sort of conversations with. And then look for the opportunity of, okay, when are we going to do this? When's the next time to sit down with this client? How are we going to start it? So take WhisperClaims as an example. If I talk about advisory keys, and advisory keys are there'll be an app or there'll be a piece of software that your firm can use to readily put something useful in front of a client. So you can sit down with a client and say, look, let me show you this. This is about you. This is about your business. Talk them through that. Those sort of things will prompt a different sort of conversation with the client. So it needs to be planned. It doesn't need to be a big sell. It doesn't need to be a big exercise. Start with, 1 client, 2 clients, 5 clients. Start with the easy clients. Start low cost. Again, this isn't a look, pay me £1,000 a month for the next 12 months to do this. It's try this, go away, see how it works, come back in a month's time. If you're happy with that, we'll start talking about where we go from here. So the client's seen some benefit before they start to, sort of spend the money. So, but you've worked out what your strategy is going to be. You've sat down with your team. You've said, right, over the next 12 months, these are the areas that we want to develop. This is the software we want to use. These are the topics we want to introduce to these types of clients because we've recognized the need. And so we're going to do this over that sort of time scale. And then so you control the process, but from the client's point of view, it's an easy in.
And back to the point you were making earlier on, this is all building confidence as we go. And sort of turning that last point, I suppose, into marketing speak. Ultimately, it's about creating real case study material out of this. The more conversations they have, the more you learn, the more you'll be able to reflect onto the next set of prospects.
Absolutely. And whether you're talking about a tax refund, tax repayment, or whether you're talking about a client having more money in their bank because they've improved their credit control, what will happen is the client will go, I did that and that worked. What else have you got? Yeah, because all of a sudden they've realised that we do more than just talk to them about accounts and tax.
Yeah, absolutely. Another customer of ours, Rob Newman at CCM over in Rochdale, he's making the point here about actually sometimes with these services, and you said this right at the outset, you've actually been doing it for years, but not packaging it and pricing it.
Yeah, and it's not rocket science for accountants to sit down and say, okay, let's have a quarterly meeting with a client, for instance. But even those you find tend to lapse after a while because we haven't structured it, we haven't controlled the process, we've not got the pricing right for it, and so people either get too busy or lose interest. And I think that's the starting. That's why people lack confidence. But it's not the topic that's wrong, it's how we've done it in the past that's the issue. And as you say, the easiest way to do it is just to give stuff away. Well, I don't mind that at the intro if it's part of a process where I know it's going to end up as a viable service.
Yeah. A few more sort of case studies here. How does tech help me? This again is building on what you're saying here. Phil Ellaby, who many people on the call might have heard about. Phil's got quite a high profile, having won the Digital Accountant of the Year award last year. If we look at what Phil says there, WhisperClaims is a trigger to spend more time with our clients. This, irrespective of whether or not that particular dialogue and that conversation that you referred to earlier on, he went into his clients' early days working with us and just said, "Can I have a conversation with you about R&D? Let's start working through a process." Irrespective of whether the outcome of that was a paid for R&D claim, he was building a closer relationship with those clients, and actually that's led him down a path of being able to essentially upsell other services into those people. As I say, irrespective of whether they actually ended up with an R&D claim in their hands. And I guess that's just reinforcing what you said a minute ago there.
Yeah, and what stands out for me here is here you've got 3 very different sort of firms. BW Peer Inspire are another example that what they share is the fact that they know exactly what sort of firm they want to be. They have their own vision for their own firm. They have their own vision for what sorts of services they want to offer and what sort of client relationship that they have. And then off the back of that, in this case here, they've recognized that then WhisperClaims fits in with that culture and actually is part of taking them towards that goal. So for those on the call today, that would always be my proper starting point, if you like. Understand first of all what you're about and what sort of firm you want to have. Then you can look at how you want to develop that with the clients. It may be some look at it and go, do you know what, advisory doesn't fit with that profile. Well, that's great, because now you're clear and you've not got to get frustrated about people pushing in that direction. But for many, will go, okay, I understand what sort of client relationships I want. I want to understand how I want my team to work. I understand what I want to achieve as a firm. Now I'm in a position to look at how I deliver that.
Yeah,
which is where you then identify the services that will fit it. I think they stand out as such. In terms of how good each of these individuals are as accountants, I have no idea, and their clients probably don't know anyway. Most clients don't need the world's best accountant. They need somebody who understands them and is working with them.
Yeah. And interestingly, Suze, I noticed you've gone off mute. Did you have somebody asked a question?
No, not yet. I was just hoping everyone's internet's all right, because mine's struggling a wee bit. I just just wanted to make sure that you guys are okay.
That's okay. That's okay. No, we seem to be. I think we're okay. I think we're up and running.
I'm okay.
Yeah, cool. Just a point I was going to make while we're still on this slide, Richard. When you look at these three sort of mini case studies here, the drivers for these three firms in sort of contacting us in the first place and looking at deploying our technology were actually slightly different. So Phil was about growing the firm and adding new services. So very much the kind of entrepreneurial, growth-driven accountant. Rob, slightly different. So Rob was more about, I want a repeatable, structured process that gives me confidence that the service I'm delivering is of a high quality. And he wanted to leverage the tech to deliver that. Thomas, different again, actually a high volume R&D operation at Fraser and Dieter, and he was looking for efficiencies in the process and driving out cost and time savings in what he was doing. The kind of net result in the end is the same, but the starting point for all of these three people was actually quite different.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking to give your team more opportunity to take responsibility to develop, it's a way of doing that. Get them fully trained up on this sort of service. It's got multiple uses. The key thing is that you understand how you want to apply it, where it fits into your plan.
Yeah, absolutely. Oops, a daisy. I have skipped a slide there, I think. Anyway, not to worry. Suze, can I hand back to you to talk about the ebook itself that we've put together in support of this session?
Yeah, of course. So I did mention this ebook just at the start of the session. This is a joint collaboration between Richard and Mike, just really covering the topics and the content that's been discussed today. I do have a link that is going to be appearing in the chat box in any moment. I think it might be me that's having internet problems, so I do apologise. I just had to shut a few things down in the background to make sure that everyone could still hear and see me. So that will be going in the chat box in just a moment. So it's available to download free from the website. It's just a short form to fill out. And you'll get the PDF sent straight to your inbox.
Excellent. Thank you, Suze. And then we've got a follow-up event to this next week as well.
Yes, absolutely. And again, this link will be going in the chat box in just a moment when my Word file decides to come back up. So just as a follow-on to the event today, we'd love it if everybody on the call who's interested to see an actual demo of WhisperClaims in action, which is a way for you to help start implementing advisory services within your business. If you maybe already offering R&D tax as a service and need a new way to kind of create efficiencies and to implement more structure and robustness in your process, or if you've never done it before and this is you starting out from fresh, hopefully we'll be able to show you how the steps that you can take to implement a service for yourself and your clients within your practice. So that's next week, Wednesday the 20th of July, kicking off at 12:30. The Eventbrite link will be in the chat box in a moment.
Excellent, thank you, Suze. Contact details for myself and Richard there. So any questions coming off the back of today, we've got a Q&A in just a moment if anyone wants to throw anything into the Q&A box. But if you want to get in touch, ask us any questions, take any of this stuff forward, there's our contact details. And Suze, have we had any questions coming through? I haven't been looking at the chat.
Yeah, no, nothing just yet. No questions just yet. So if anybody does have any, I think Steve's just dropped us a message just there. That's Richard saying, I see. Yeah, if anybody does have any questions, please do put them in. If not, that's absolutely fine too, but we'd love to answer anything live if you like. And obviously, Mike's got the contact details up there too. If you'd feel more comfortable addressing the questions directly to Mike or Richard via email, please do feel free to drop them a message. They'd be really happy to answer your questions for you.
Excellent. Well, we'll just give it a few seconds in case anyone's got anything to throw into the Q&A pot. So there we go.
We'll be doing a little follow-up, won't we, Mike? So if I can't get these links up, which I'm so sorry, everybody, this has never happened before, we'll add the links to the ebook and a link to the...
Yeah, we'll ping an email out to the attendees to make sure everybody gets that.
Yeah.
I think the key point for me, Mike, just picking up on something you said earlier, where you were talking about the pressure to do advisory. That's the one thing I would urge people to take away from this webinar, to not simply, if you like, follow the herd when it comes to what you do next in your firm. When you talked about those 3 firms there, it's a great example. 3 firms using WhisperClaims in a different sort of way, but they've all worked out, first of all, what it is that they're actually trying to achieve for themselves, not because the rest of the profession tells you that's what it's got to be, but because that's what they want to achieve for themselves and for their team, for their clients, their firm. So I would always urge everyone to start from that point, to say, okay, what do I want to be? And then you can look at what's available to actually help you achieve that. But don't do advisory just because everyone tells you to do advisory, because if it's what you want to do, if you're passionate about helping your clients, then it's a great opportunity. Yeah. But if it's not you, it's not you. It doesn't. Yeah,
it's quite interesting that there's almost a danger in this term of advisory, isn't there? Because it does mean different things to different people, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just you need to consider that and figure out what it means, as you say, for your firm.
And it's people being almost derogatory about compliance. Compliance does have its challenges. Digital transformation means we've got a lot more competition, we've got a lot more pressure in that respect, but equally we've got a lot more tools to help us do it effectively. I'm a huge fan of compliance. It brings lots of business into your firm, business that you can then develop along this client relationship towards more value-added services, if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Notice we've got one point coming in on the Q&A series, which is Martin. Thank you, Martin, saying very interested in using WhisperClaims software. That is great news. Thank you. We'll follow up directly with you after this and get you set up with a demo so you can have a good look over what we do.
Yeah, Martin, if you wouldn't mind, you can message me directly through the chat. Just drop me a message with the contact details. That would be fantastic, and we can follow up straight after this.
Brilliant. Well, we'll leave things up for 30 seconds while Martin does that, Suze, but it looks like there's no more questions in the Q&A.
That's correct, and thankfully I did manage to get the links up in the chat box for everyone. So again, we'll leave that up just for a second or two, just to enable everyone to copy those links. But all of our events just now are on Eventbrite, so you'll be able to find us there if for whatever reason you can't manage to grab the link. And likewise for the ebook, if you navigate to the materials section on our website, which is under the resources in the primary nav, feel free to download a copy of the ebook, as I said, that we mentioned earlier on, that reflects. Oh, I think we've got another question there. Oh, Martin, thank you so much. That's great. And we'll follow up with you shortly. I think that's it for today.
Excellent, great stuff. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and looking forward to seeing some of you on the follow-up session next week as well.
That's great. Thanks a lot,
Bye,
guys.
everyone. Cheers. Bye.